Hello everyone, welcome to Amazing Dinosaurs on YouTube. Today we're going to be unboxing 5 brand new Godzilla, Godzilla X Kong, and Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire toys. And Godzilla vs. Kong. First we got the Monsterverse collectible figures. Then we got the Monsterverse Battle Roar Kong. We got the blockbuster Godzilla vs. Kong. This is Kong with fighter, jet, and battle damage. We have the Ferocious Kong with helicopter and chain propeller with battle damage reveal. And we have the Hollow Earth figures and diorama. This is Godzilla vs. Kong. The 5-piece diorama set. Awesome! They're awesome toys. Let's go ahead and check them out, and then we'll check out my entire collection of King Kong toys after this video. Awesome. Stay tuned. Okay, so today we're going to be unboxing the Monsterverse Battle Roar Kong with roaring, crinkling nose action. Check out the back. Says there's also Battle Roar Godzilla, which I already reviewed for you. Okay, let's free him from the packaging. Awesome. I need that toilet right now. Get off! Uh-oh, he made Kong angry. Oh no, Kong is dipping him into the toilet. It's King Kong vs. Angry Godzilla! And down he goes! Okay, let's go ahead and check out this awesome Battle Roar Kong. So he's got like the angry, constipated look on his face. Push the button in the back, and he roars. Okay, so this Kong is really cool. He does have the rubber face, so he has different expressions. You can see, you could like open his mouth way up there. Not much articulation. The arm moves like that. Here, he could punch himself in the head, which doesn't make much sense, and these arms swivel over there. So there we have our awesome, ferocious, roaring Kong. Behind him we can see the Gigantosaurus about to eat Dennis Nedry outside the Jurassic Park gates. Cool. We better hurry, our Kong is about to get eaten by the ferocious Indominus Rex. Okay, so this is the Ferocious Kong with helicopter and chain propeller. This is the battle damage reveal. You can see there, you got a helicopter. He's got like a chain propeller thing to swing around and hit the helicopter out of the air. Cool. Okay, let's free him from the packaging. Awesome. It's Kong vs. Scorpius Rex. Man, that really hurt. Why'd you do that? Who will be our victor? Keep watching. It's Crazy T-Rex vs. Angry Kong. Who will be our victor? Keep on watching. Okay, let's check out the Ferocious Kong with helicopter and chain propeller. First of all, you got the chain wrapped around the propeller, which makes a pretty formidable weapon. I mean, if that thing was swinging at you. And then you got an Angry Kong, which has a lot of articulation. First, you can see he's got a real mad look on his face, scratches. I mean, he's got articulation at the arm, the elbow, This could also be one of the fist bump Kongs. It's like, hey, fist bump, dude. So you could have him pretty much punch himself in the head. His legs move, his knees move, his feet move. So this is an awesome Kong, well worth the price. If you're looking for a cool Kong, it's definitely it. And also you have the big wound piece over there that can be ripped out. There we have it. Our awesome Ferocious Kong with helicopter and chain propeller. Cool. Okay, so we got the Godzilla vs. Kong Monsterverse Kong with fighter jet. Got the battle damage reveal. This is from the Godzilla vs. Kong movie. Over here you can see the other ones you can buy, and he's about to be attacked by the Spinosaurus and custom Indominus Rex. Kong is free! This toilet's mine! Stay away from it! Oh no, Kong's falling in the toilet, and the big Kong is flushing it! Oh no! There he goes! He's going down! And he's gone! Yo, bro! Fist bump! Okay, let's check out the Kong with fighter jet! First of all, the great articulation, as you've seen in the other figures. So these Playmate Kongs are awesome. He's got like a goofy look with orange eyes. He's got the fighter jet, which fits into his hand, so he could hold the fighter jet like he just ripped him out of the sky. He's got the battle damage on his shoulder there. He's got the same legs that bend, so he could actually sit or go into like different positions, like a kung fu type position over there. Okay, so this is an awesome Kong, and it will look great in my collection of King Kong and Godzilla toys. So today we're going to open up the 6 figures. This is the Godzilla vs. Kong collectible figures from the Monsterverse. Awesome. Check that out. Okay, let's rip this open. Check these guys out. Hungry Dino eats Godzilla figures. Okay, so let's check these out. They are awesome. There is our skull crawler. The level of detail on these is really cool. The coloring and everything. And then we have Hellhawk. Never even heard of this figure before. And then we've got Godzilla. And then we got our battle damage Kong. We have Behemoth, which is like a mix of a mammoth and some type of scary creature. He's got like arms, so he could probably stand on 2 legs. And then we have Warbat, which is a mix between a snake and a bat. Okay, so let me know which one of these 6 figures is your favorite in the comment section below. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and unbox this Monsterverse Godzilla vs. Kong. This is the Hollow Earth figures and diorama set. Uh-oh, we gotta hurry. That T-Rex looks like it's getting ready to attack. Quick, let's check out the back. Says they both have battle damage reveal. You have 2 different dioramas, one for Hollow Earth Kong and one for Heat Ray Breath Godzilla. Cool. Let's open it up. Okay, let's see what was inside. So, you have the dioramas with instructions. You got the 2 figures. You got an axe. You got Frost Breath, Godzilla's tail. And they both have really cool blue coloring to them also. Godzilla's just doing his morning business! Move! Oh man, he must really need to go. It's Kong vs. Crazy T-Rex! It will be a victor! Keep watching. Okay, let's check out our Hollow Earth Heat Ray Breath Godzilla. Godzilla's awesome. He's got like dark blue, like lighter, like a teal blue, green coloring. It almost looks like the light's reflecting off the plants and the water around him and giving him his color. So he's got the Heat Ray Breath over there. He's got battle damage on his chest, so you could rip him open like that. I mean, this is just one cool Godzilla. I mean, I would buy this set just for the Godzilla and the King Kong alone. But the diorama is cool also. So you got like a waterfall. You got like a 2nd level with the sunset and a 3rd level. And you could put your Godzilla on any of these levels, because when you build it, if you build it right, it's strong enough to support your Godzilla. Awesome. And here we have our Hollow Earth Kong with diorama. I mean, that looks like a throne behind him, so this must be Kong's throne. Simply seat him down and it is King Kong, literally. Okay, but anyways, him too, it looks like he's reflecting the colors around him, because you got the teal blue that you got on the surface here. You got like an orange and a brown, and if you look at this side of his body, this side's like more orange, this side's blue, his arm is orange, his hair is like orange. I mean, it looks like Dennis Rodman from the Chicago Bulls. His hair looks just like his. And then he's got this big ice axe. So like I said before with the Godzilla, this set is worth it just for the Kong and Godzilla. But then you got a cool set too. So here you have like Kong's throne, and then you have like an upper level there where you could pose Kong up there also. Maybe, I'm not sure if it'll fall or not. And then Kong also does have the battle damage on the arm there. So if you open it up, there is his battle damage. Again, you got the great articulation with these sets. So many points of articulation there, so you could have him like punching like that, or fist bumping, and the great articulation in the legs and the knees and the joints, so you could have him like doing like a crab type crawl. Actually, maybe he won't. There we go. There we have it, our Ferocious Kong. And behind him, we had Dennis Nedry getting eaten by the Gigantosaurus in Jurassic Park. Cool. Let me know in the comment section below which one of these 5 was your favorite. Wario, and welcome to Amazing Dinosaurs on YouTube. Today we have a huge 50-gallon box full of King Kong and Godzilla X Kong toys. Let's go ahead and check these out. They are awesome. Scar King with Whip Slash. King Kong with Bone from Mesco Toys. George from Rampage the movie. Knockoff Huge Kong with bad teeth. Goofy looking Kong from Godzilla X Kong. Scar King with Whip Slash. Giant Scar King with Whip Slash. Kong with Beast Glove from Godzilla X Kong. Chest pounding roaring Kong. Burn Kong with Beast Glove. Another constipated Kong. Where's the bathroom now? Kong with Battle Axe from Godzilla X Kong. Another Cyborg Kong. Custom painted Destoroyah Indominus Rex from Godzilla. And the coolest Kong is last. This is the Mesco Toys gigantic King Kong with removable head. So he has 3 different heads on him you could change out. Skullcrawler. Lizzie from Rampage the movie. George from Rampage the movie. NECA King Kong. Dino from King Kong. Scar King from Godzilla X Kong the movie. Kong from King Kong the movie. Roaring Kong with axe. Dragon creature from Godzilla X Kong. Ultimate Kong from King Kong the movie. Cyborg Kong. Gator creature from King Kong the movie. Roaring chest pounding Kong from King Kong the movie. Mechagodzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. Giant furry Kong with roar. Punching roaring Kong from Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. Kong with Beast Glove from Godzilla vs. Kong. Cyborg Kong. Weird, colorful Kong from NECA. Roaring Kong from Godzilla X Kong. Weird looking King Kong from Godzilla X Kong. Kong with plane. Old Kong from the Kong movie. With punching action. Mechagodzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong. King Kong in chains from the King Kong movie. Scar King with Whip Slash. Kong with Beast Glove from Godzilla vs. Kong. Constipated looking Kong. I need the toilet now. Black and white King Kong. Okay, then we're gonna add it to our gigantic Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, Godzilla, King Kong studio with well over 1,000 dinos, Godzillas, King Kongs. I mean, lots of really cool stuff. You can see I've got a bunch of stuff missing there. I got a lot of custom stuff too from Mattel and artists that have made it. You can see I got a mess here. I was shooting a King Kong video, a Godzilla video, some dino videos, bunch of toys I opened up. I mean, my studio is a disaster right now. So after I'm done shooting this video, I gotta clean up. The worst thing I could do. No, I gotta hire somebody to clean up for me.
Welcome to the Amazing Dinosaurs channel. This is a collection of all of my Jurassic World Indominus Rex figures versus Godzilla. This Godzilla is the largest Godzilla figure that I have. It stands over a foot tall and it is 20 inches long from head all the way to the tail. It's got a bunch of texturing all over its body and these huge spikes right on its back, the iconic 3 rows of spines. And this figure has 6 different points of articulation, 2 for the arms, 2 for the feet, and then 2 different points for its tail. 1 up here, and then a smaller point back here. Now let's meet the first Indominus Rex to face off against Godzilla. This is my super colossal I-Rex. This figure was released in 2020 as part of the Primal Attack toy line. It's got huge arms with spikes on the elbows. It's also got those spikes along its neck. And coolest of all is that this I-Rex has a stomach compartment. So you can feed this I-Rex either smaller dinosaurs, or in this case, a small human, and then you can release the figures in its stomach compartment right down here. Now it's time to face off against Godzilla. And first off, look at that size difference. This Godzilla figure is quite large, but it's still very small in comparison to this super colossal figure. And I'm pretty sure that Godzilla is more lightweight too. Let's check it out. And this super colossal figure, oh boy, yep, that's probably 2 or 3 times the weight of this Godzilla figure. Now then, who do you think would win, Godzilla or the super colossal Indominus Rex? Our next Indominus Rex figure is the Destroy and Devour I-Rex figure. This figure stands at about 8 inches tall and is actually 22 inches long from its head to its tail, so a little bit longer than Godzilla. And it's got this action button on its tail to activate the chomping action. And if you look, you can see that there's actually a little stomach compartment in its mouth to store smaller dinosaurs. And there's a secondary action right here on its back that activates its claw slashing action. Now let's face the figure off against Godzilla. So now the Indominus Rex appears to be the slightly shorter figure, but as I said earlier, the Indominus Rex is actually a little bit longer from tail to head than the Godzilla figure is. And now let's check out the weight between the two. There's the I-Rex, and here's the Godzilla figure. You know, they're pretty similar. I think Godzilla wins by a tiny bit when it comes to weight. Now comment below, who do you think would win, Godzilla or the Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex? The next Indominus Rex figure is a pretty special one. This is the Dino Hybrid Indominus Rex figure. Now this figure was actually made for the first movie and it was made by Hasbro and not Mattel like these newer figures. And it's got a few special features. First off is this coloring with the bright red on its back and the gold on its hands and on its underbelly. That is very unusual for an I-Rex figure. It's got this hidden button right here on its back to activate the spikes. And it's also motorized, so if you pull down on its arm, its mouth actually has a chomping action. But I gotta say, the one thing I do not like about this figure is that it can't really stand up on its legs. It was just designed pretty poorly so that it has to lean back on its tail like this, as many of the older Hasbro figures have to do. Now let's face it off against Godzilla. Now off the bat, it looks like the I-Rex figure is taller, although it is only taller because it's leaning back on its tail. If it was actually standing, you can see that they're actually really close to the same height. But let's also see the weight difference between the two. This one has some batteries and a motor in it, so I suspect it's gonna be a lot heavier. Now let's lift up Godzilla here, and yeah, the I-Rex figure is a little bit heavier, not as much as I thought it would be. But now it's time. Who would win, Godzilla or the hybrid Indominus Rex? Next up is the extreme damage Indominus Rex. This figure features more of the classic gray coloring along its body, but the cool part is when you press this button up top right here, it actually reveals the battle damage on the side. Look at that, there's some red underneath there that you can turn on and off. Plus it's also got the button on its tail for the jaw chomping action. And look at that, even this figure has a small storage compartment in its mouth so it can eat smaller dinosaurs. Now it's time for the face-off against Godzilla. This Indominus Rex figure is almost 10 inches high, so not quite as tall as the Godzilla figure, but it is longer. This figure is 23 inches long from the tail to the head, so a little bit longer than Godzilla once again. And now let's check out in terms of weight, which one's heavier. Oh, this one's pretty heavy. It's got some batteries in it. And now let's see the Godzilla here. Not too much lighter, but the Indominus Rex once again is the heavier dinosaur. So now who would win, the battle damaged Indominus Rex or Godzilla? Up next for the I-Rexes is a custom painted Indominus Rex. Now this is actually another Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex, which we saw earlier back here. But this one has been meticulously repainted with these bright and exciting new colors. There's the blue along its underbelly, then it transforms into the purple here, and then the orange and black on its back. And don't forget its really cool chomping action. Now it's time to face off against Godzilla. Standing upright all the way here, the Indominus Rex is the taller one, although it normally stands around this height, so they're actually once again pretty close in size. And as with the earlier Destroy and Devour figure, they're pretty similar in weight, although I think the I-Rex is a little bit heavier. Now this is one crazy and dangerous looking I-Rex. So then, who do you think would win, Godzilla or the custom painted I-Rex? This next figure is another vintage Indominus Rex. This one, I believe, was released in 2015 for the first Jurassic World movie, so it's pretty old, and this is one of the only Indominus Rexes that I have that has this rubbery texture along its head and neck. And a cool and unique feature about this figure is when you press down on the arm, it actually chomps the jaw with sound effects. Now let's face it off against Godzilla. And these two figures are almost very close in terms of height. I think the I-Rex is a little bit taller generally. And the I-Rex is definitely the older figure, but let's see who is the heavier figure. There's the I-Rex, and here's Godzilla. You know what? I think this time Godzilla is the heavier figure, even though the I-Rex has some batteries in it for the sound effects. So who do you think would win in this battle? The I-Rex figure from the first Jurassic World movie or Godzilla? Next, I've got a little surprise for you, and that is this new Godzilla figure from the upcoming The New Empire movie. Now let's have a look at it. First off, the blue coloring is a bit brighter compared to the older version of Godzilla. And obviously, these spikes are this bright red color, and that bright red goes all the way down to the tip of his tail. And check it out right here. There's actually a button for the sound effects, so let's hear some of those. So it's got those two sound effects, and overall it's pretty cool, but definitely a whole lot smaller than the older Godzilla figure that I have. And it does look like this Godzilla figure is kind of skinnier too. This larger one here is quite bulky in the torso. And here's the first I-Rex to face off against the new Godzilla figure. This is the Dino Trackers I-Rex figure. And this is one of my newest I-Rex figures that I've bought. You can tell that it's a bit more slim in its design compared to these other older figures. Those are huge and bulky, but this dinosaur seems a little bit more lightweight and actually a bit smaller in size overall. But it's still got some cool action features. Over here on the tail, there's a button, and you can move the tail back and forth for chomping the jaw and for twisting the head back and forth. And it's got these glowing green lights coming out of its neck too. So now let's face off the I-Rex versus the new Godzilla figure. Now obviously in terms of size, this I-Rex figure is a whole lot larger. It might be 2 or 3 times the size of this Godzilla figure. And I bet it's obviously heavier as well, just given its size. Now then, who do you think would win between these two? The Dino Trackers I-Rex or the new Empire Godzilla figure? This next figure is the Sound Surge Indominus Rex, released for Jurassic World Dominion. It's quite a bit smaller in size compared to many of the other figures that we've seen so far, but it still has the classic gray coloring with some brown detailing along its face and back, and of course the orange eyes. And the special feature of this figure is the sound effects. Right here's the speaker, and then there's a button up top, so let's hear some of those sounds. Now let's face it off against the Godzilla figure. And now this smaller Godzilla figure is taller than the I-Rex. You know, probably by a good 2 or 3 inches. And now let's see which one's heavier. This one still has batteries and a speaker in it, so it's still pretty heavy. But so does this Godzilla figure, although I think the Indominus Rex figure is slightly heavier. Now then, who would win in this battle? The Sound Surge I-Rex or the new Empire Godzilla? Here is the Feeding Frenzy Indominus Rex figure, released as part of the Camp Cretaceous collection. The proportions of this Indominus Rex is very different. It's got this giant head and the smaller body. Now there's a hidden button on its nose for some sound effects, and it has a chomping action as well. First, you press down on the tail to open up its mouth, and then you feed it its food, or in my case, my finger right here, and it'll chomp down right onto the food. Now it's time to face off against Godzilla, and once again, the new Godzilla figure is slightly taller. The Feeding Frenzy figure is probably 2 inches shorter, and let's see in terms of weight, the Feeding Frenzy figure's decently heavy. And let's check out the Godzilla figure. And I think the Indominus Rex is the heaviest of these two figures. Now comment below who would win in a battle, the Feeding Frenzy I-Rex or Godzilla. And the final I-Rex of this Versus collection is this smaller I-Rex from the original Jurassic World movie. So this one was also made by Hasbro. Now it has a lot of the iconic gray coloring, but you'll notice that the top is this more green-gray coloring, which is interesting. And it's got a few special features. First off is this hidden battle damage right on the side that you can click open to reveal its insides and some bones. And this figure has a chomping action. When you move the tail up and down, it actually moves his head up and down and closes his jaw too. So then let's have our final face-off, the I-Rex versus Godzilla. Now this I-Rex figure doesn't really stand up on its own anymore, so it's kind of hard to say which figure is taller, but I would bet you that the Godzilla figure is the tallest just by guessing and trying to get him to pose in his normal position. And as for who is the heavier figure, let's see here, the I-Rex figure is pretty lightweight, and remember the Godzilla figure actually has batteries in it, so this one is definitely the heavier of the two. Now finally, who would win in this battle? The smaller I-Rex figure or the Godzilla figure? And here is the entire collection. Go ahead and comment below which of these Indominus Rex figures was your favorite. And also, which of these two Godzilla figures was your favorite? The smaller one or the larger one? Let's first start by unboxing the Steve figurine. And here it is. Steve is wearing the blue pants with a teal colored shirt. And overall, it's a pretty cool figure. You can move the arms up and down. You can move the legs back and forth. You can move the head side to side and even up and down a little bit. And this Steve figure actually has hands, so you can remove this. And then there's a spot to put in some tools. Plus, Steve came with these other accessories that we will check out in a little bit. But first, let's meet our first T-Rex to face off against Steve. This is the super colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex in the custom painting. This is one of my most unique T-Rexes in the collection because it has this fiery styled paint job all over it. Plus, this super colossal figure actually has a stomach compartment all the way down here, so you can actually feed it smaller dinosaurs and it'll be stored in its stomach here. Now then, let's go ahead and face this off against Minecraft Steve. All right, look at that size difference. Steve is way over here. It's a tiny little figurine. I bet he could even fit inside of the T-Rex's mouth. And it's interesting, they both got different color combos going on. Steve is in a more blue and cool colors, whereas the T-Rex is in fiery red tone. The next T-Rex to face off is another custom colored Tyrannosaurus Rex, but this one is in a camouflage green coloring. I think this coloring is way better than the original painting, especially around the face here. Check out those teeth and all the shading around its eyes and the rest of its face. So now let's face this T-Rex off against Minecraft Steve. And as you can see, there's still a huge size difference between the two, although this one is a bit more closer in size than the super colossal one. And this T-Rex actually has a really cool chomping ability that chomps downwards. I don't think you or I or Steve would want to be in the way of those chompers. Our next T-Rex is another green T-Rex, but this is actually the original painting. This is the Legacy Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex. It has a darker green body with some gray and tan detailing along the top of its back, and it has a button at the top of its head for the chomping action. And now let's face that off against Steve. And the T-Rex is still quite a bit larger. You can see that it stands way over Steve's head still, although they're getting closer in size now. What do you think? Would Steve stand a chance in a fight against a T-Rex like this? I think we gotta give Steve some tools, which we'll give him in the next round. I think this next T-Rex is a little bit larger. This is the new 93 Real Feel Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex. And it's called the Real Feel T-Rex because its skin is actually a soft rubber, unlike most of the figures nowadays, like these ones over here that are hard plastic. Plus, this T-Rex has a stomach compartment as well, so just like the super colossal T-Rex, you can feed this smaller one small dinosaurs. And finally, it's got some sound effects as well. Now it's time to face off against Steve. And yeah, this T-Rex is a whole lot larger than that green one over there was. And just like the super colossal T-Rex, we've got two different styles of coloring. We've got the cool blue coloring over here with Steve and the fiery red coloring over here. Although this one looks a lot more realistic than the custom colored painting over here. Let me know in the comments below, who do you think would win in this fight? But before you comment, I'm going to give Steve a tool here now. And that tool is his mighty sword. And this thing is actually made of metal. So this is actually quite heavy. Whereas the actual Steve figurine over here, I think is entirely made out of plastic. So now let's go ahead and give him the sword. And now Steve is ready to face off with the T-Rex. Comment below, who do you think would win in a battle? The next T-Rex is a very unique one. This is actually a deconstructed Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now this T-Rex is made so that you can actually see the insides of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. You can see some intestines there, there's a bunch of bones, and you can actually lift off the ribs right here to reveal what I think is the stomach underneath. That's pretty crazy looking. So now it is time to face off against Steve. And since this T-Rex can't even stand up, Steve is actually the taller one in this competition. And in fact, it actually looks like Steve already defeated this T-Rex because the T-Rex is already taken apart and totally destroyed. All right, way to go, Steve. Next up is another orange-brown T-Rex here, pretty similar to the deconstructed T-Rex that we saw right here. But obviously this one still has all of its limbs, although you can see quite a bit of battle damage on its tail, on its leg, on its side, and even on its face. So this T-Rex figure is in much better shape than the last. So now it's time for the face-off. Now once again, Steve is way shorter than the T-Rex here. And he's got a sword, but that might not do it. Let's go ahead and add his final accessory, which is this armor plating here. And these are actual real metal. So let's go ahead and add them on. All right, now Steve is armored up and ready for anything. And I gotta say, with all this actual real metal armor plating, Steve is a lot heavier than he was originally. It's pretty cool that they actually used metal for the armoring. And now, who do you think would win in this competition? Steve or the Tyrannosaurus Rex? The next T-Rex is the smallest T-Rex that we've seen yet in this collection. This is a juvenile T-Rex, and it is actually from Jurassic Park. You can see the tattoo on its leg right there. So this figure is quite old. And like many of the old Jurassic Park figures, it has the real feel skin, so it's a soft rubbery skin instead of hard plastic. And it's got a big old battle damage right on its side right there, which is pretty cool. Now it's time to face off the juvenile T-Rex versus Minecraft Steve. But wait, I've actually got a little surprise for you. And that is, I actually bought another set from Minecraft. This is the wolf set from the Diamond Level series. And here is the wolf figurine. It's a bit smaller than Minecraft Steve, but it's still quite posable. You can see that you can move its torso up and down, you can move its tail, and each of its legs individually, as well as its head. Plus, it came with these 4 accessories. First is this extra head that has different eye shapes compared to the original one right here. It also comes with this collar that you can put on the wolf, as well as this piece of meat right here, and a bone. So let's go ahead and set the wolf right next to Steve, and here we are with our face-off. Who do you think would win? Steve and the wolf, or the juvenile T-Rex? This T-Rex here is a similar size as the last, although it's very different in its coloring. And it should be noted that this is actually a model Tyrannosaurus Rex. So it is a hard plastic all over, and it does not move at all. It is stuck in this roaring pose. But it's still pretty cool. It's got some pretty decent coloring. It's got the yellow eyes and then tons of shading along its body as well. So let's face it off against Minecraft Steve. Oh, look at that. They're almost the same in height. The T-Rex is a little bit taller still. And this T-Rex sure looks fierce, but Steve is fully armored up with his sword and with his wolf companion. So comment below, who do you think would win, the T-Rex or Steve and the wolf? Here is one of our final T-Rexes. This one has some cool orange-brown coloring with the black stripes all along its back and on its legs. And like the last figure, this is a model figure, so there are no joints or arms or jaws that move on this figure, but it does have some pretty sizable teeth. And now let's face off against Minecraft Steve. And look at that, Steve is finally taller than one of the T-Rexes here. And not only that, but I think Steve is actually heavier than the T-Rex figure here as well. So now that the sizes are a lot more even, who do you think would win? Comment below. And now here is our final T-Rex, and by far the smallest one. This one is from Jurassic World, and it looks like it's mostly brown in color, but it does have this reflective gold coloring all over its body. Plus, despite how small it is, you can still open and close the mouth. That is pretty cool. Now let's face it off against Minecraft Steve. And look at that size difference. Steve is probably 3 times the size of this Tyrannosaurus Rex, and even the wolf is larger than the T-Rex. It's at least maybe like twice the size of this teeny tiny T-Rex. Now this does not look like a fair fight at all. Let's first start by checking out the Mario figure that will be facing off against the Predators. This is the official Super Mario It's-a-Me Mario. And here he is. It's quite a large figure, and this one has some pretty cool features to it. First off, his overalls are actual real fabric. You can see here that I can move it around, and that's really cool. That definitely gives it a whole added dimension. And the rest of the figure is a hard plastic, but it is surprisingly adjustable. You can move the arms in all directions, as well as the legs. You can even bend the knee joint as well. And then you can swivel the head side to side as well. And the coolest part is that this comes with a variety of action features and sound effects. The first special feature is when you press Mario's hand, it comes with some sound effects. So with his right hand, it has the coin collecting sound effect as well as his voice. And with his left hand, let's see what that sounds like. So he's got a punching sound effect on this side. And there's also sound effects in his shoes when he kicks something. It's got that little sound. And then his voice, of course. And then the final sound effect button is on his hat. When you press it, he's got more voice sound effects and music.
It's-a-me, Mario.
Now it's time to check out the first Predator in this collection, and this is the super colossal Indoraptor figure. This is one of the newest super colossal figures that Jurassic World has released. It's got the iconic gold stripe running down the side and the black body. And my favorite part are these teeth right here. I love how they stick out and intertwine with the top row. That's so cool. Plus, like all of the other super colossal figures, this Indoraptor has a stomach compartment, so you can actually feed it smaller dinosaurs through its mouth down to its stomach. So now it is time to face them off. Mario versus the super colossal Indoraptor. Now right off the bat here, you can see there is a huge size difference between the two. The super colossal Indoraptor is by far the largest. Now Mario has some cool sound effects and buttons, and the Indoraptor has some really great texturing as well as that ability to eat smaller dinosaurs. So who do you think would win in a fight, the Indoraptor or Mario? Our next Predator to face off against Mario is this huge Tyrannosaurus Rex. This T-Rex figure is from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and it comes in this dark brown coloring with the black detailing on the top of its back and elsewhere. It's got the bright yellow eyes, and it has an action on its tail to swing the torso back and forth and to chomp the jaw. Check out how big that chomp is. Plus, it looks like there's actually some room in there to fit smaller dinosaurs if it wants to eat some. And now it's time for the T-Rex to face off against Mario. These two figures are a whole lot closer inside, although I think the T-Rex still wins the prize for being taller. And in terms of weight, let's see which one's heavier. This T-Rex actually isn't that heavy, and Mario here, I think, is a bit heavier. So this one's taller, but Mario is the heavier figure. Now then, who do you think would win in a fight? This T-Rex figure or the Mario figure? The next Predator to face off is this super special Spinosaurus figure. This Spinosaurus figure is pretty rare. It's in the blue coloring with the yellow detailing on its spine, on its legs, and on its face too. It has a button on the top of its head for the chomping action, but the main reason why this is so special is because of this hidden battle damage on the side that you can open up and reveal its insides. You can actually even lower the ribs as well, and then there's a hidden button over here to make the stomach swirl back and forth. And look at that, there's even some liquid inside of it. So now let's face it off against the one and only Mario. Now with the Spinosaurus standing up all the way, it looks like it's a little bit taller than the Mario figure, or just about the same if you lower it down a little bit. And they've both got their special features here. The Spinosaurus with the massive battle damage on the side, and Mario with his tons of sound effects, like his fists, his feet, and then the button on the top of his head too.
Mario.
And there's also the question of which one is heavier. Let's first check out Mario here, pretty heavy. And then the Spinosaurus, actually they're probably right around the same weight. So even though the Spinosaurus is taller, they're the same weight. Now who do you think would win, Mario or the Spinosaurus? For our next predator, we've got the mighty Giganotosaurus dinosaur. This figure is from the Jurassic World Dominion movie, and I'm sure you remember the awesome battle it had against the T-Rex and the Therizinosaurus in the movie. Now this figure's pretty cool. It's got the green body with the black detailing. It's got the huge spine running along its back. It's got a swivel tail here, which is pretty unusual for figures of this size. And it has 2 action buttons on its body. There's a hidden action button right here that activates this huge swinging chomping action. It's got some sound effects too. And then there's actually a hidden action button underneath its tail here for a smaller chomping action. A pretty cool roaring too. So now let's face it off against Mario. And now it looks like Mario is the taller figure of the two. The Giganotosaurus is maybe 3 or 4 inches smaller than Mario. And since Mario is now the larger figure, I would bet that he's the heavier figure. Let's see here, there's Mario. Now let's lift up the Giganotosaurus. You know, it's pretty close, but I think Mario is the heavier figure now. Now the Giganotosaurus is a very fierce predator, but Mario is no easy fight. Who do you think would win, the Giganotosaurus or Mario? Our next predator is a massive Pyroraptor figure. This, I believe, is the largest Pyroraptor I have in my entire collection. It's got some really cool feather texturing all over its body, especially along the back of its face, on its back, and on its tail. It's got some huge marbled eyes as well. And this figure is pretty special because it is actually battery operated. So there's a little switch here that I'm gonna turn on and it'll come to life. And you can actually interact with it by pressing right here. And check that out. It moves, it chomps, and it has sound effects all on its own. Now let's bring it over to face off against Mario. And this Pyroraptor is already ready to fight. Now this time Mario is quite a bit taller than the dinosaur predator figure here. There's probably a 5 or 6 inch difference between Mario and the Pyroraptor figure, but which one is heavier? Let's see. Mario here is decently heavy, and the Pyroraptor here, let's lift it up. You know what? I think that the Pyroraptor is heavier this time. And that kind of makes sense, because, I mean, look at the size of this thing. There's a lot of plastic on this, and there's motors and batteries in this thing as well. Now, this Pyroraptor figure is one of my favorites because it is battery operated, and you can interact with it. You can get all sorts of chomping actions and stuff. But Mario can do many of the same thing, but just in his own way with the sound effects and with the music. But either way, who do you think would win in a battle? Mario or the Pyroraptor? The next predator dinosaur is the Yangchuanosaurus figure. This predator dinosaur is also from Jurassic World Dominion, specifically from the Massive Action series. It's got the green body with the yellow underbelly and the brown detailing on top with the orange crown on the top of its head, which is one of my favorite things. And it's got some massive actions. First, you can move the tail back and forth to swing the head and torso up and down and back and forth. And there's a button on its tail to chomp the jaw too. Now let's face this predator off against Mario. And now the predator dinosaur is a whole lot smaller than Mario. Both in height, there's probably a 4-inch difference between the two in terms of which one is taller, and in weight. I bet you that Mario is a lot heavier than this Yangchuanosaurus. And it certainly is. This dinosaur figure doesn't have any motors or batteries in it, so that's what makes it quite a bit more lightweight, besides the fact that it's a whole lot smaller. So now, who do you think would win in a fight? But before you answer, I've got a bit of a surprise for you. And that is this massive Bowser figure from the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I figured it'd be cool to get another figure from the Mario series, so let's open it up. And here is the Bowser figure. And this figure is pretty cool. It's got 14 different points of articulation, so you can move the arms, the wrists, the legs around in all different directions. He's got some pretty cool coloring too with the yellow, and that fades into the green, and it's got these spikes all over its shell. But the coolest part about this figure is a hidden feature. When you press this spike, he'll actually breathe smoke, which is actually just steam, but let's check it out. Oh, there we go. You can see it a little bit right there. It is pushing out steam, so it looks like he's breathing out fire. That is pretty cool. So now we actually have a three-way face-off. Mario versus Bowser versus the Yangchuanosaurus. Which do you think would win? Next up is another mighty predator. This one is called the Equirixinatosaurus. This dinosaur figure is from the new Epic Evolution series. So this figure has some different features that you won't see on older figures. Firstly are its teeth. They're now made out of a soft rubber, so they look a bit more realistic than they used to, I think. And instead of an attack button, it has this dial on its back that you spin back and forth for the chomping and sound effects. That's pretty interesting, but I'm not sure which I like better, the buttons or these spinning dials. And now it's time to face off the Equirixinatosaurus versus Mario. And now there's even a larger size difference between the two. The Equirixinatosaurus is probably half the size of Mario here. And Bowser over here might be around the same height, but he's definitely a whole lot heavier than the dinosaur figure. So let me know in the comments, who do you think would win, the Equirixinatosaurus or Mario? The next predator against Mario is another similar looking dinosaur compared to the last one, but this one is called the Scorpiovenator. It's got a light brown coloring over most of its body with a lighter underbelly and some bright orange detailing along its neck and on its face. And this figure is older than the Epic Evolution series, like the last figure we saw, because you can see that the teeth are hard plastic and they aren't quite as detailed and realistic looking as the other one was. But this figure still has a really cool chomping action when you press down on its body. Check out that full body chomping effect. And now it's time for Predator versus Mario. Once again, Mario towers over this dinosaur figure. It is probably twice the size as the Scorpiovenator dinosaur, and a whole lot heavier too, maybe even twice the weight of the Scorpiovenator. This is quite lightweight, although it does have batteries and some speakers in it. Now let me know in the comments, who do you think would win, the Scorpiovenator or Mario? Just a few predators left. This next one is a very different looking one. This super long dinosaur is called the Sarcosuchus, and this one comes in the camo green coloring on the sides and underbelly with the clay red coloring along the top. Check out these rows of spines that go all the way down to its tail. And of course, it's got a huge mouth full of teeth and a very narrow mouth too. Now it's time to face it off against Mario. And first, let's check out that size difference. This Sarcosuchus figure is probably only 3 or 4 inches tall, so then Mario is probably 4 or maybe even 5 times as tall as this predator dinosaur. And I don't think we even have to compare the weights either. I think Mario is definitely heavier than this much smaller dinosaur figure. Oh, and you know what? I forgot to mention that this Sarcosuchus has an attack feature. You saw it earlier, but there's a button on its tail to move its head around and to jump its jaw. So then, who do you think would win in a match? The Sarcosuchus or Mario? And here is our final predator and our smallest one. This dinosaur is called the Atrociraptor, obviously related to the Velociraptor. It has a dark orange body with some tan striping all over, including its tail, its back, and on its face too. And it's pretty adjustable. You can move the arms, the legs, the neck, and the jaw you can open and close manually. Now this dinosaur looks pretty cool, but sadly doesn't have any attack feature. So let's go ahead and place it up against the Mario figure. And this is the biggest size difference between the Predator and Mario so far. This dinosaur is super small compared to Mario. It probably reaches only the top of Mario's leg, and it might be only like 10% of the weight of the Mario figure. So who do you think would win in a battle? The Atrociraptor figure or the Mario figure? First, we need to check out this Spider-Man figure. And here is the figure itself. This Spider-Man figure is pretty tall. It's probably over a foot. It, of course, has the Spider-Man emblem right on its chest. And it looks like you can move the arms and the elbows back and forth on both sides, which is pretty cool. Check it out. You can see that the figure is posed to shoot web out of its hands. It looks like you can move the head a little bit, although not much. And you can't move the legs up and down or back and forth at all, which is kind of a bummer. In addition, there's some extra costumes and tools in here that we'll be checking out. But first, let's check out some Jurassic World T-Rexes. This first T-Rex is a massive, super colossal, custom painted T-Rex. It's one of my favorite T-Rexes that I have because of how realistic the coloring looks. I especially love how gritty those super dangerous teeth look, as well as the bright red eyes. Now let's compare this figure to the Spider-Man figure. First off, with the size difference, the super colossal T-Rex is definitely a whole lot larger, even though this Spider-Man figure is quite large. And I think that the T-Rex might have even more better detailing than this Spider-Man figure. But wow, I mean, look at the size difference of that. So we're gonna place this T-Rex off to the side here and bring in our next T-Rex, which is actually another super colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex. This figure has a much darker coloring compared to the first T-Rex that we saw, and this one is actually from Jurassic World Dominion. Overall, it looks pretty similar to the first T-Rex, and a really cool thing is that it actually has a stomach compartment, so you can feed it smaller dinosaurs. Now let's compare that against Spider-Man. Once again, the super colossal Tyrannosaurus Rex towers over the Spider-Man figure. And although Spider-Man may be smaller, I still think he might stand a chance in a fight against a T-Rex. Let me know in the comments what you think in a battle between these two. The next T-Rex to face off against Spider-Man is this Hammond Collection T-Rex figure. Because it is part of the Hammond Collection, it's a whole lot more detailed and has better coloring than typical for most of the figures, and it even has these really cool marbled eyes. Now it's time to face it off against Spider-Man, but first, why don't we check out some of these other accessories for Spider-Man? And the first accessory that we're gonna check out is this right here. It may not look like much, but these are actually web blasters. So let's snap these on, just like that, and the other side, and then we'll load it with these web pieces right here. And now Spider-Man has two web blasters, one on each arm. Let's check out that web shooting in action. All right, it shoots pretty far, probably around 3 or 4 feet, and they are very easy to reload, just like that. So here they are, the Spider-Man figure right next to the Hammond Collection Tyrannosaurus Rex. And it looks like this time, the Spider-Man figure is actually a little bit taller than the T-Rex. Now let me know in the comments below, which of these two figures do you like the best? The next T-Rex is this Stomp and Escape T-Rex. It's got the classic brown coloring with some gray detailing along its back, and it has a single massive action button right here on its back for a roaring action. Now let's face the T-Rex off versus Spider-Man. Now look at the size difference between these two. Spider-Man stands way taller, maybe almost 2 times as tall as this T-Rex right here. But now let's see if this web blaster can do any damage against the T-Rex. All right, the T-Rex is unfazed. Next up is an even newer T-Rex from the Dino Trackers series. This T-Rex has a much lighter coloring on its body, especially with this bright tan yellow with the gray striping along the top. And of course, it's got this really cool headpiece, and it's like a soft rubber, so it fits on really easily. And it's got an action button on its back for a chomping action. So let's face it off against the Spider-Man figure. Ooh, you know what? This T-Rex is a little bit closer to the same height as Spider-Man. It's getting pretty close again, so Spider-Man better watch out. This is the Terran T-Rex figure. Now this figure has a more gray coloring along its body, but this figure is pretty special because it actually has 2 action buttons on its back. One for swinging the tail, and the other button here for doing a massive tearing action. Now let's bring in Spider-Man to face them off. Now these 2 figures are extremely close in height. There's probably only an inch or 2 difference. Spider-Man's got his web shooters that we've already checked out, but let's see what this tearing action can do against Spider-Man. He can knock him down. That is a massive swinging action. Pretty cool. Next up for the T-Rexes is this brown and orange T-Rex figure right here. I think this came out as part of Fallen Kingdom. And this figure is pretty special because it actually has this reflective pink-red coloring right along the tip of its face. But let's see how it does against Spider-Man. Oh, this figure is quite a bit smaller than Spider-Man right here. And you know what? Let's go ahead and add on some of Spider-Man's accessories. We are going to be putting on this gold and black suit. So let's put on the chest piece, just like that, super easy. And now let's put on the mask right over the red mask. That's interesting. The mask looks a little bit crooked. It actually looks like the plastic is bent a little bit, so his face looks a little crooked. So now it is the black and gold Spider-Man versus the smaller tan and a little bit reflective red T-Rex. Now here I've got an original Jurassic World Tyrannosaurus Rex, meaning it was from the first movie. And that also means that this figure was made by Hasbro and not Mattel, as many of the new figures are. This figure has a few cool features. First off is a stomping sound effect action. You press down on its feet, you can hear that sound effect. And then there is a chomping action which you can activate by pressing up on the tail. Check that out. Chomps down super fast. Now it's time for the T-Rex and Spider-Man to face off, and the T-Rex looks ready to fight, although the T-Rex is quite a bit smaller than the Spider-Man figure. In fact, this T-Rex is almost small enough that it seems like this Spider-Man figure could almost ride on top of this T-Rex, which would be pretty funny. The next T-Rex is this bright red and black Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now this figure is pretty cool because it is actually custom colored, so you won't see this coloring anywhere else. And it's custom colored to kind of look like flames. And of course it has the button on its head for the chomping action. So now let's face this T-Rex off against the Amazing Spider-Man. And check that out, it's almost like they are matching in coloring. They both got the bright red and the black on them. Although the T-Rex has a lot more red on its body than the black and gold version of the Spider-Man does. Next up is this battle damaged Tyrannosaurus Rex figure with the brown coloring and the gray detailing along the top. Now this figure doesn't have an attack button to activate the chomping, but you can just open and close its mouth manually. But it does have a button on its back right here to turn the battle damage on and off. So now let's face this T-Rex off against Spider-Man. Before we do that, let's change Spider-Man to add his final accessories. First up is a new chest piece and a mask that's going to replace the black and gold right here. And then the coolest part, his robotic spider leg. And now here is Spider-Man in his largest form with the robotic spider legs coming right out of his back. Plus there's the new chest piece here with a lot more gold that looks pretty cool, and a new mask that's all red and has larger white eyes. So let's face Spider-Man off against the T-Rex. Now the T-Rex is pretty close to Spider-Man's size, although the T-Rex is a little bit shorter. And it is really cool that this T-Rex has a battle damage button right on its side. But I have to say, these robotic arms that come out of Spider-Man's back are really cool, and I think make Spider-Man the winner in this versus competition. But let me know in the comments, who do you think of these two deserves to win? And now it's time for that surprise I was telling you about. I've actually got an additional Spider-Man figure right here. This is the Infinity Saga Spider-Man from the Civil War era. And here it is. This figure is a whole lot smaller than the other Spider-Man figure. In fact, here is the size difference between the two. This smaller Spider-Man figure doesn't even make it all the way up to his waist. And the larger Spider-Man figure's head might be 5 or 6 times the size of this smaller figure here. But that doesn't make this Spider-Man figure worse, because check out how posable this figure is. You can pose his elbows, his shoulders, his torso, his neck, his knees, his ankles, almost everything like you could in real life. Plus it comes with some accessories that we'll be trying out too in a little bit. Now the first T-Rex to face off with this Spider-Man figure is this hybrid Dilophosaurus figure. And this figure is from the first Jurassic World movie, and it's pretty special. It's got some battle damage on the side, it's got the gold reflective paint on the top, and overall just looks like a crazy amazing T-Rex figure. Now let's face this T-Rex off against the smaller Spider-Man figure. Now it looks like the Spider-Man figure is still standing taller with the Dilophosaurus reaching around his chest. This Spider-Man figure is pretty detailed, which is really cool, as is the Dilophosaurus figure. You can see its skin texturing, you can see that battle damage, and as a bonus it actually has a chomping action. Check that out. The next dinosaur here is the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic World Dominion. It's got the classic brown coloring with that same gray detailing along its neck, and most importantly it has a button on its back to activate the sound effects. Now let's face this off against the Spider-Man. Right off the bat, you can see that the Sound Surge T-Rex here is quite a bit smaller than this Spider-Man figure. With the way that the T-Rex is currently standing, there's a few inches above, but if you place it down over here, Spider-Man looks to be around the shoulder height of the T-Rex. I will have to say though, the Spider-Man figure is a lot more detailed and intricate because you can pose it in so many different ways and it looks super realistic. Whereas the T-Rex figure here is from the Sound Surge collection, so it's a bit on the cheaper side. There's no button to open and close its mouth, and the painting design is a little bit underwhelming. And here is the last T-Rex of the collection. This is a juvenile T-Rex in the green coloring with the darker green detailing along its back and on its head. Now let's face it off against the Spider-Man figure. Now this juvenile T-Rex is pretty small, so it only comes up to the waist of this smaller Spider-Man figure. Now why don't we go ahead and swap out these accessories on this Spider-Man figure. And here is the Spider-Man with the new accessories added on. Spider-Man's mask is now taken off to reveal Peter Parker underneath, and I swapped out one of his hands to change from a fist into the web slinging action. And here they are side by side once again. I forgot to mention earlier as well that the T-Rex actually has a chomping action, which is pretty cool. And all in all, both of these are really cool figures. Let's first start by checking out the Iron Man figure. And here is the figure. I believe it stands at 7 inches tall, and this is a pretty intricate and very well detailed figure. It is super adjustable. You can move basically all of the joints like you could in real life, and it's got some pretty great coloring too. You've got the silver, of course the bright red, and then the gold. And all in all, you know, I'm pretty impressed with this figure. Plus it came with some extra accessories that we will check out in a bit. But now it's time to meet our first epic evolution dinosaur of the collection. This is the Jurassic World Neovenator, and as part of the Epic Evolution series, you can see that this dinosaur lives in what looks like an area with rivers and mountains. And right off the bat, I do like the coloring of this dinosaur. It's pretty different compared to many of the other species that I have, with the dark blue, green, gray, and then the yellow on its face. And since this is from Epic Evolution, it has an evolving ability with this little dial on its back that you spin. Let's check out and see what happens. Lifts up its head for a chomping action, and then right on top of its head here, you can see some spikes that you can actually just pull out for the evolving for its battle mode. Those are some crazy looking spikes. Kind of looks like a mohawk in a funny way. And now it's time for the first face-off of this collection, the Neovenator versus Iron Man. And it looks like they are right about the same height. The Neovenator is a little bit taller with these spikes, but when you lower it, it's a little bit shorter than Iron Man over here. And for the most part, they've got different color combos going on. The Neovenator with some cooler tones and Iron Man with the red tones, but they both have that yellow gold coloring. Now, who do you think would win in a battle, Iron Man or the Neovenator? The next epic evolution dinosaur is another big one. This is the new gigantic trackers Triceratops. Now this Triceratops has quite some different coloring and texturing compared to many of the older Triceratops figures that I have. The packaging says that this Triceratops lives in the mountain regions, possibly where there's snow, so it makes more sense that it's more light colored to blend into those lighter surroundings. And what's really interesting about the texturing on this figure is that it kind of has like these huge armor plates all over its body, compared to older Triceratops that have just more normal skin texture. Now this figure has an attack feature. There is the dial on its back, like all the epic evolution figures, that you spin. Let's see what happens. Looks like it has a head ramming action right there. So these two horns on the top of its head are its main attack weapons. But there's actually more. Since it's an epic evolution Triceratops, there's actually a hidden thing that you can push up on its frill to reveal more spikes on the top of its frill for its battle mode. Now it's time to face off against Iron Man. Now it looks like Iron Man is a little bit taller than the Triceratops figure, maybe just a couple inches. However, I think that the Iron Man is a lot more lightweight than the Triceratops. Let's lift this up. Oh yeah, the Triceratops is maybe 2 or 3 times the weight of the Iron Man figure. And like the previous figure that we just saw, the dinosaur has the more cooler tones of coloring going on, and Iron Man over here is in contrast to that with the bright red, gold, and silver. Comment below, who do you think would win in a battle? The next epic evolution dinosaur that I just bought is this Megalosaurus dinosaur. Now this dinosaur is the first of these 3 that has the more warmer coloring. So this one is in a brown orangish color. You can see it's got some yellow detailing on its back, on its neck. And one of my favorite things about the new Epic Evolution series is that they have rubber teeth that look way more realistic. And of course it's got the dial on its back there for the Rampage action. Now let's face off against Iron Man. Iron Man is still the taller in this competition, but let's see who weighs more. Let's see the Megalosaurus, pretty heavy because it's got a speaker and some batteries in there. And then Iron Man here, you can see that I actually added a stand so that he can stand up a bit more easily. But I definitely have to say the Megalosaurus wins in the weight competition. It is definitely a lot heavier. And while we're here, why don't we go ahead and give Iron Man these different hands. These are open hands. And here is how Iron Man looks with the open hands configuration. Much more ready to fight and to grab onto the dinosaur. Who would win, Iron Man or the Megalosaurus? Comment below. Next is another brand new figure. This is the Wild Roar Gryposuchus, or Griposuchus. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce it. Now this dinosaur reminds me quite a bit of the Sarcosuchus, which, as you can tell by the name, they are actually related. So this is a super long dinosaur that lays close to the ground. As the packaging says, it lives near or in the water, and it's got that action dial on its back for the attack. Wow, check out those teeth too. They're so small, but they look extremely deadly. And now for the face-off, the Gryposuchus versus Iron Man. And obviously, Iron Man is way taller, although if you stood up the Gryposuchus like this, it is way taller than Iron Man now. And in terms of the weight, let's see here, I'd actually say they're almost identical in weight. And the Gryposuchus has this really cool attack feature, but Iron Man still has more points of mobility for posing. Comment below, would Iron Man win in a battle, or would the Gryposuchus? Next is another epic evolution figure that I just bought. This is the Danger Pack Poposaurus. This figure is definitely the smallest out of what we've seen so far, and it's got those cool blue coloring with the gray underbelly, but it also has some warmer orange-brown coloring on its tail and on its face. Now let's face off the Poposaurus versus Iron Man. Now the Poposaurus is a lot smaller. It doesn't even reach the top of Iron Man's legs, and from that you can definitely assume that the dinosaur figure is a lot lighter weight than the Iron Man figure, but it's not a huge difference. And from that you can expect the Poposaurus to be a whole lot lighter weight than the Iron Man figure, but actually it's not a huge difference, so this figure must be a lot more dense than the Iron Man figure. But both these figures are looking pretty cool. Now who would win, Iron Man or the Poposaurus in a fight? But before we do that, why don't we add on this other accessory for Iron Man? You can see some flames, so I think you know where this is going. Next epic evolution dinosaur is the Allosaurus figure. I've had this figure for quite a while, and it is one of my largest Allosaurus figures. It once again has these really cool, realistic looking teeth. It's got the evolution feature here on its back with this little button here that you press, and these spikes will pop out. And then it also has the dial on its back for chomping and roaring. Now it's time to face off against Iron Man. This time, the dinosaur is standing way taller than Iron Man. And it's not only taller, it is certainly a whole lot larger in all aspects. Let's see how heavy the Allosaurus is compared to Iron Man. You know, they're pretty close, but I still think the Allosaurus is the heavier one. Now, who would win in a battle, the Allosaurus or Iron Man? This is the Ecryxenatosaurus dinosaur figure from Epic Evolution. It's got the gray body with some light blue striping on its back and its neck, and the darker face with these two small horns in the front and a bunch of smaller horns right behind. And by using the dial on this dinosaur's back, you get the chomping action and the roaring sound effects. And now it's time to go up against Iron Man. But wait, I've actually got a little surprise. And that is, I actually bought another Iron Man figure that we'll check out right now. This set also comes with a Tony Stark in a suit. Although I gotta say, that doesn't really look a whole lot like Robert Downey Jr. But the even better part is the Mark I Iron Man suit. This figure is pretty detailed, pretty intricate. It really looks like it's made out of metal, although it is just made out of normal plastic. Although it's not quite as posable as the other Iron Man that we have, it's still pretty adjustable. You can move the shoulders, you can twist the arms, you can twist the torso, and even for a big clunky suit, you can bend the knees and move the legs. Plus, it actually comes with this little fireball that you can insert into the launcher, and then you can pull it back and launch it away. So now let's have this Mark I Iron Man face off against this dinosaur. And now these two figures are pretty similarly colored, both with the dark gray, although the Mark I Iron Man is a lot more reflective and shiny compared to the dinosaur. Now comment below, who would win, the Mark I Iron Man or the Ecryxenatosaurus? This next epic evolution dinosaur is actually an herbivore. It looks pretty similar to a Stegosaurus, but is actually called a Hesperosaurus. It's got a dark green body with some lighter detailing, and its plates along the top are a brighter green color. So with all this green, I would assume that this dinosaur lives somewhere in the jungle or maybe a swamp or something like that. And this figure has one action button. Using this little dial button on its back, you can swing the tail back and forth. So now let's face off against the Iron Man Mark I. First off, I think the Iron Man stands a little bit taller than the Hesperosaurus. But that being said, the Hesperosaurus definitely is a whole lot bulkier, and I would assume is the heavier of the two. So let's find out, and let's check out the Iron Man. Oh yeah, the dinosaur is maybe 2 or 3 times the weight of the Mark I Iron Man. But that's probably because there's batteries and a speaker inside this thing, so that makes it a lot heavier. Now then, who do you think would win, the Mark I Iron Man or the Hesperosaurus? Next, I'm I'm showing you two new dinosaurs at once. This first one on the left is called the Avaceratops. It's got a dark brown body with some white detailing on its back, and then the white frill, and then two tiny horns on the front. And then this other figure on the right here that looks kind of like a Stegosaurus is called a Tojangasaurus. And this one has a more tan coloring over most of its body with some darker detailing along the top of its back, and then the orange plates running all the way along its back to the spikes on its tail. Plus, when you press down on this figure on the front, it actually swings its tail back and forth. Now let's face both of these dinosaurs off against the Mark I Iron Man. The Iron Man is obviously a lot taller, probably twice the height as these dinosaurs, but I wonder if the weight of these dinosaurs combined beats the Iron Man Mark I suit. And I think it does, just by a little bit. Now then, who do you think would win, Iron Man or these two dinosaurs? Here are 4 dinosaurs all at once from the new Epic Evolution collection. This first one on the left is a Plesiosaurus. Now Jurassic World has released this dinosaur before, but this is with new coloring, a whole lot darker than previously. Next to that, we've got the Guebasaurus dinosaur, and this one has some pretty cool coloring with this green on its back, and then the black on its legs, neck, and face, and a little bit of a white stripe along its side. I like that it has all these little spikes on its head, and it actually has a chomping action when you press down on its body. Then there's these two dinosaurs that actually came as a pack when I bought them. This first one is called the Eoraptor, obviously related to a Velociraptor. It's a whole lot smaller of a figure, but it has some cool coloring with the bright red on the front and all these spikes along its head, and then the dark green in the back. And then this little dinosaur is called the Stegosaurus. I would guess that it's related to a Stegosaurus. It looks kind of similar. It stands on 4 legs, and it has all these spikes in the back, but it's a whole lot smaller, obviously. But I do like this little green stripe that's running along its face and its side. Now it's time for the face-off against Iron Man. 4 dinosaurs versus Iron Man Mark I. Now you probably remember the Mark I suit wasn't super advanced, so I don't know how it would do against 4 dinosaurs at once, especially one that's aquatic. I definitely don't think this suit would do well in the water. But let me know in the comments, who do you think would win in a battle? These 4 dinosaurs or the one Iron Man suit? And finally, let me know in the comments, which of these figures did you like the best? The Tony Stark and the Mark I Iron Man, or the much more advanced Iron Man suit that comes complete with a stand and even flames to put on the shoes and the hands? Want to see more dino videos? Click the subscribe button now.